Well. Looks like Philip got caught with his camera off. What is going on, everybody? And thank you for tuning in to a new season of the ManUp Real Talk podcast. I am your host with the most, Mr. Michael Wiley, saying greetings and salutations to all of you, my beautiful people. Look, y'all know we appreciate all the likes, clicks, shares, and downloads, and whatever it is that you do to support this podcast, because we know that had it not been for you, it wouldn't be no us, so we sincerely and gratefully thank you. Now, for those of you all that may be joining us for the first time, we say welcome, and for everybody else that's coming back for another helping, we say welcome back, because your boys is back on the air. It's been a while. It's been over a month, actually. I missed y'all. I'm not gonna get sentimental, Phil. I ain't gonna do it.
Don't do it.
I'm not gonna do it. I almost got my Van Jones on right there.
Don't do it.
I shouldn't. I'm not gonna do it.
Don't do it.
I'm not gonna do it. But I missed y'all. I missed y'all for real. And I say welcome back. And as you can see, joining me as always is my brother-in-law, my partner in crime, my ace boom coon, if you will. Mr. Philip Hines, a.k.a. Mr. Classic, a.k.a. OG Triple OG. What's going on, fam?
What's going on, brother-in-law? We back, man.
We back, man. It feels so good to be back. It's like
Yeah.
That whole month of January, it was like I was going through withdrawal. It was crazy. And I still did a couple little lives and stuff, just to get it out of my system. But I missed this. And I missed the people. Most of all, man, I miss the people. Listen, guys, we have a awesome lineup for this month. I'm excited because, the Lord has just given us a different direction to go with this podcast. This podcast was always meant to, if you look at the title, it was always kind of like a double entendre, right? It was one of those things because when you look at the term man up, it's kind of like another way of saying, step up to your responsibilities, be accountable, that type of thing. So we always try to have subjects that, we did a lot of self-exploring over the years. I found out a lot of things about myself. Phil found out some things about himself, and we found out some things together. And also, it was meant to bring our fellow man or our brother up. So we always did things to try to encourage brothers and always try to put some things out there, man, just to help us to be better. This year, man, it is all about impact. I have a goal that everything that we do, every conversation that we have, every guest that we have is going to have some type of impact in some kind of way. And that is the direction that we are going in. We got some events in mind that we're going to try to pull off this year. We're already going to do the back to school thing again, and we're going to try to do a coat and a toy drive this year. And we're already in the works with doing those things. So I'm just excited. And this month, Black History Month, I figure what would be a great way to kick it off than to talk about Black history and the impacts of Black people in the world.
But Mike,
Yes, sir.
Before we start, how's your mental health, brother? How you doing mentally?
I'm good.
I'm going to make ask people how they doing mentally.
I'm good, man. I'm actually good. I'm in a good space. You know what I'm saying?
Everybody in the comments, I hope everybody is doing good mentally also.
Yes, I'm in a good space, and I hope everybody that's in the comment is in the same space, man. I appreciate all of y'all that's here. Sister Regina, Big Kev is in the building. I see Eddie in the building. Finest is here. Mitzi is here. Just whoever's in the chat, man. If y'all put something in there, we appreciate y'all. And even if you didn't, and you just hanging out and watching, we appreciate y'all. But we got a stellar lineup for this month. Just coming on in a few moments, we got the our author / pastor. You got to put author in his name now. He got 3 books out, 3 killer books, just in case you don't know. But he has 3 books out. We got author Pastor Razer is going to be joining us in a few minutes. Next month, we got the prolific Mr. Eddie K. Phillips. We're going to be talking about the impact of blacks in film. And then that following week, we're going to have Sean and Natasha Pritchett of the MP3 show. They're going to be guesting on it. We're going to be talking about the blacks in media and social media in particular. And then the last Tuesday in the month, we're going to have our brother Leonard Razer on. Look, I forget that Leonard is a professional musician. And he's been in the music business for over 20 some odd years. So we're going to have him on speaking from a musician's perspective and talking about the impact of blacks in music. So we got an awesome month lined up, and then we got a little special something coming up for y'all in about another couple of weeks too. So be on the lookout for that announcement as well. So I'm just excited. I'm excited. And tonight is the first of first. That's right. We giving away free merch.
Yes, sir.
Y'all ain't heard that. We're giving away free merch, and what we're gonna do is, so look, at the end of the show, we're giving away a free t-shirt. That's right. This t-shirt is valued at $24.99. But for you, it's going to be free 99.
Free 99.
Free 99. And all you have to do is hang around to the end of the show, because you got to participate in the chat. That's the key. Got to participate in the chat. So definitely we're going to do that on this. We're going to do that on this evening. So look, let's get right on into it. Our guest on tonight is he's my pastor, but not only is he my pastor, he's our pastor. I'm sorry, Phil. My goodness. He is our pastor. And I love him because just of the work that he's done over the years, how he has a heart for the people, and not only just for the people, but for our people. And he's written a book called Biblically Black and Blessed. If you don't have the book, I encourage you to please go on Amazon. Go ahead and hold it up to the camera, Phil. Hold it up to the camera so they can see it, son. Look at that. Biblically Black and Blessed. If you don't have this book, I encourage you to go on Amazon and order it right now. Actually, he has a revised version coming out soon. He's going to talk about that. But look, if you didn't know where you came from, read this book and you will know. I promise you'll know. So I just want to bring him right on so we can get right into the conversation. So I want to present to some and introduce to none other than the awesome pastor, author, Henry L. Razer. Hello, Pastor. How are you, sir?
Hello, gentlemen.
What's going on, Pastor?
How you guys doing tonight? Good evening.
Man,
Good evening.
I'm doing fantastic. I'm glad that you were able to clear out your busy schedule, because I know you are busy this month.
Yeah, this is a good month though.
Yeah,
we're gonna try to keep it going for the whole year. And how about a lifetime, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So look, we're just excited to have you on. I wanted to bring you on specifically for two reasons. Number one, so you could talk about your book, because the book, if people don't know, as I mentioned earlier, is something. It's something special, because it's not just a book talking about black people. I mean, that would be special enough. But what's awesome about the book is that it talks about the significance of black people in the Bible.
And it comes with facts.
And the reason why we are the chosen people. See, a lot of people for a long time, what were you taught? It was always taught blue-eyed, blonde-haired Jesus. But the Bible ain't just about. But that ain't what it's about. We play a significant role in the Bible, and this book goes through it, and it gives you a rundown. It gives you genealogy. It gives you everything. So I wanted to just give you this time just to kind of give the people a brief synopsis of the book. What was your inspiration for writing the book, and what are your endeavors when it comes to this book? So I yield the floor to you, sir.
Okay, first of all, I want to say that the revised version is out.
Is it available? Okay.
It hit January 1st, and I
awesome.
Noticed that Amazon was down to 1 copy, but then yesterday I saw that they were back up to 15 copies, so they had gotten some more. And then I saw again that they were down to 14 copies shortly after that. So people are interested in the book. They're grabbing.
Yes, sir.
And you know why? You know why? Because people want to know.
Yes.
Right? They want to know. This book, the whole idea of this book is probably, for me, it was correction. You know, I've been in church all of my life. I did what you call got saved and accepted the Lord. That's what they call it, right? Right. At 12 years old. And really 11 years old at the Earl Church of God in Christ down in Earl, Arkansas. So I've been in church all my life, and I've never heard the black people and the black perspective, and I shouldn't say the black perspective. I never heard the Bible taught the way the Bible is written. Let me put it that way. I've never heard it taught the way the Bible is written. I went for the first 30, 35 years of having it, of actually it being put into me that you are a Gentile because you're not a Jew. And then I went through all of this time. There was never really any mention of black people in the Bible. It was Jews, and then it was implied Caucasians. And the reason I say implied Caucasians and Jews, because every television program you saw, every painting that you saw, everything that you saw, it was pretty much Caucasian. Even the Jews were painted as Caucasians,
yes,
or pictured and depicted as Caucasian. And so you are, every once in a while you may have seen a little darker shade of a Caucasian, looked like they were tanned, and that was the Jew. But you never saw black people, right?
Right.
You never saw black people, and so it inherently diminishes self-worth, especially when you are a Christian, right? And you're going through this, and you're seeing everybody but you in God's plan, right? And that's the way it's being presented. So it diminishes self-esteem. It diminishes self-value. It diminishes self-worth, right? When how could that be if God loved everybody and God looked at everybody and He created everybody? We're all God's children, right? And so as I started to look and started to read and I started to pray on this, I started to see, wait a minute, how can we be excluded from the Bible when God started humanity with us?
Come on.
You know, it just and I don't want to get into some conspiracy theory, but there obviously had to be some sinister plot, right? To devalue us and to de-emphasize us, and to move us. There had to be some plot, some sinister plot. And so I took it on myself. And I'll tell you what, two things impacted me to write this book. And the one thing was, when I was a kid, and at about 1978, I think it was, I was at the youth Congress for the first jurisdiction in Arkansas, and Bishop L.T. Walker was preaching, and it was in February when we had the youth Congress, so it was in the middle of Black History Month, and he really went in hard on Ham, and he went into Ham's descendants of Mizraim and Put and Cush, and then he followed Cush as Cush went toward south from that northern Africa area, and as Cush went south and into the equator area, and how his skin became darker to protect him from the sun rays, and how the hair follicles and the cells that did the hair follicles, they changed to give him a kinky hair that actually gave him protection. He went through that, and that intrigued me. And I began to see that, and when I saw that, I began to say, wait a minute. So then that means that we are a part of this, right? We are a part of this, right? And then when and I think it had to be about 84, 82, somewhere like that. Bishop Desmond Tutu was down in South Africa, and he was fighting for rights for people. He's trying to kill apartheid.
Yes, sir.
And the U.S. had so much money involved in that, right? And so what they did was Jerry Falwell took a fact-finding mission. Not Jerry Falwell Jr., but the old man.
Yeah, old man Falwell.
Yeah. He took a fact-finding mission. What he said, he was a fact-finding mission to South Africa. And I never will forget the day that he arrived back into the United States. He stepped off of the plane, and there was reporters around him, and he said, his statement was, Bishop Tutu is a phony. That's exactly what he said. I'll never forget that. And that angered me. That really angered me, because now there's no sinister plot. I began to say that what they see as Christianity is not what we see as Christianity. There has to be something different. So then I really, for the next 20 or 30 years, I did research and I started looking. What I found was that it was obviously a sinister plot, right? Because God started humanity with us.
Right.
And we are prominent throughout the Bible.
Yes, sir.
We are prominent throughout the Bible. Here's what I've understood is that a lot of times people don't understand what the Bible is, right? And they say, well, how come it doesn't mention this, or it doesn't mention this, it doesn't mention this? Well, you got to understand that the Bible is the history of the Jewish people and their relationship and their call and their work and what they were supposed to do for the whole world. And the Jewish people had pretty much pretty much been selected by God now to be his priest. But God had other people to do other things, and the Hamites served a different function. They were not supposed to be the priests, but we served a different function, right? And so what happens if I'm driving a load of gold from Chicago to California, and you want to document that? You're obviously going to follow me, right? You're going to follow me. So the Bible follows the Jews, right? It follows the Jews. Now, if there's no problems between here and California, then all you ever find out about is the Jewish people, right? But if there's a problem somewhere and I have to call the police, then they come in that story, you're going to see where the police came in.
Right.
When they done what they're done, you keep going again, right? So you can't say, well, how come the police aren't in that? If the police aren't, just because this part of the story didn't mention the police doesn't mean that they're not there. It just means that they were not needed at that time, right? And so when we look at the Bible, we see that they are, it's transcribing the history of the Jewish people. But whenever God needed his people that he had selected to be protectors, and he said he called them in, whether it was the king of Ethiopia, whether it was the queen of Sheba, whether it was Simon of Cyrene, whether it was he called them in. And what you see then is you see that God had a very, very, very a strong relationship and a close relationship with black people throughout the Bible. Now, let me lay this here on you. This is why I find it so shocking that we haven't been taught this, because from Genesis 1:1, from Adam to Noah, there was no different races of people. They were all in the same, right? And Adam was created from the dust of the ground. Where at? In Africa.
Come on, Pastor. Come on.
For that 10 generation, really, there were only Africans.
Wow.
Period. Now, I'm starting a podcast this month on Thursday nights, and I'm going to detail this, and I'm going to tie it to our timeline that we live in today, the AD and BC. Well, now they call it BCE and BC timeline. But I'm gonna tie that to the timeline. But for that first 10 generations from Adam to Noah, there were no Caucasians. There were no Jews. There were no Africans. We were all, and I say no Africans in to say that there were no Hamites. Let's put it that way, right? We were all created from the garden. The people at Adam was created from the garden, from the dust of the ground in Africa. And for that first 10, it wasn't until Genesis 10 that we see that the people started to move out from that region, and that's when we see that the descendants of Japheth went into the northern areas, and they adapted, and they became the Caucasians or the Gentiles, right? And then we see that the Shemites actually stayed kind of in that area, in the northern Africa area. See, here's the thing: Israel is really Africa. There's a Suez Canal that was man-made. That Suez Canal, it was man-made. If that Suez Canal had not been built, then that African and Israel, that's one landmass. There's no separation there. So we see that the Shemites stayed in northern Africa. And then we see that the Hamites went south. But for the first 10 generations, and this is why I have such an appreciation for Nimrod. You know, we said, boy, he tried to build a tower, and when he tried to build a tower, God confused the people, and they went out there. That's when people went out. Up until that point, it was just one people, and they looked like us.
Wow. Man Up Real Talk with Mike and Phil. We got Pastor Henry L. Razer talking about his book,
people.
Biblically Black and Blessed.
Get the book.
Let me say this. And this angers me. This angers me. The black church is the most consistently attended institution in the black community for the last 400 years. If we had been taught this per the Bible, now we're not making this up. This is what the Bible said. If we had been taught this, if these young guys had been taught this, we've been taught this, right? There's no way you'd have to look over your shoulder when you go to the gas station.
Yes, sir.
You wouldn't be worried about being carjacking. If we had been taught who we really were.
That's right.
And the relationship we had with God, and if we just known that, it would have changed the course of our existence to this day. If we'd only known that, and so there was a sinister plot, and we seen that plot to de-emphasize us and to make it look like we're worshiping demons or worshiping idols and worshiping false gods and worshiping. And I'm going to straighten all of that out in my podcast, because all of that is a lie. All of that is a lie, right? The black people, but if we've been taught that of the trust that God put in us, and if we taught how God valued us, and if we were taught what God did for humanity through us, you wouldn't be worried about being carjacked.
I totally agree.
You wouldn't be worried about being stuck up and hung up, and you wouldn't be worried about those things, because we would have developed young people and developed people who understood and knew who they were, and they had a sense of pride. But instead, we develop people that actually, there are black people that think that the African people were somehow ignorant, unlearned, and were, just out there walking around naked and running with them. It's just totally. It was a sinister plot. It was a sinister plot, and I'm going to cover a lot of that in this podcast that I'm starting Thursday night. I'm going to cover a whole lot of that, because we have to correct the record and let people know who we really are, and the confidence and the trust that God put in us. So I got angry when I heard Jerry Falwell refer to Bishop Desmond Tutu as a phony. And here's why I got angry. Because I used to wake up every Sunday morning and watch Jimmy Swaggart. He was my man. Yes. I used to watch Billy Graham. He was my man. None of them said a word when Jerry Falwell called Bishop Tutu a phony. None of them said a word. None of them stepped up to the table. None of them said anything about it. No one confronted him. And I began to see there that Christianity for some people was not Christianity as the Bible stated. And so I'm going to deal with all that. I'm going to deal with the timeline. I'm going to prove that Christianity is not a white man's religion. I'm going to prove that God, that and we can take history and Bible and show that we were here. God created us and created us first. And I even got to the point, and this hit me like a ton of bricks today, right? Because my wife said, you always thinking, your mind's always going, right? And I'm asking God, I'm saying, okay, you got a whole group of people out there trying to make themselves Jews to be somebody, because they don't really know who they are. If you really understood who you are, you wouldn't want to be a Jew.
Now, are we referring to the Black Hebrew Israelites?
Yeah, you know, them pass the gas right there. Don't pass the gas right there.
But see, the Apostle Paul said when he got through talking about the failure of the Jews, the Romans asked him then and said, well, Paul, if that was so bad, what value is there in being a Jew? I ain't going to answer that now because that's going to come up come up in one of the podcasts. But the Romans was saying, if they were this bad, then what benefit is of anybody wanting to claim Jewish heritage and being a Jew? And Paul gave, but that's going to come up. That's going to come up in the podcast. But when you see it, you see that throughout the Bible, from the very beginning of creation, and I'm going to have to really state that we cannot. Obviously, there were civilizations that existed before Adam, but they were not living souls. So we're going to go back. We're going to go back to Adam in the timeline, and we're going to go from Adam to where we are today. And we're going to put significant things on the timeline where they belong. And you're going to see the confidence that God put in Black people, that he had, or I shouldn't say he put, the confidence that he has in Black people. He has entrusted Black people with so much.
That's what's up.
Well, Mike, can I say something real quick?
Of course you can, sir.
The reason why this book is so important, because there's a lot of us that wasn't raised in church. So we did fall for that. Christianity is a white man's religion.
You fell for the okie doke.
And they brought us over from Africa. We was all Muslims and all that. But once you realize that Christianity is a big religion in Africa. And even in this book shows you that we was God's people for sure. And it goes step by step and shows you how with the scriptures to back them up. So this is a good book, y'all. I'm just letting y'all know.
Now look, I go in the revision, I go through that. I increased the introduction to make sure to say that this is, I'm not anti anybody. I'm not trying to put the Jews down.
Come on.
I'm not trying to, I mean, we go through great lengths to make that point, But when you look at the Bible, and if we're going to use the Bible, if you have Hamites, which are the indigenous Africans and those of African descent, right? And you have Shemites, which are the Jewish and Arabs of those that are of Jewish descent or the descendants of Shem. And then you have Japheth, which according to Genesis 10, 2-5, they are the Caucasians, right? They are the Japhite of the one, they are the Gentiles, period, right? Now, the only people in the Bible that are not in relationship with God throughout the whole Bible are the Gentiles. And when the Apostle Paul talks, he does not have, Paul doesn't say one good thing about the Gentiles because they were out of relationship with God. Now, it was the Jews' responsibility as the priest that God said to the Jews, he told Abraham, through you, the whole world was going to be blessed. How is that? Because through your seed, because I'm going to take your seed, and I'm going to reveal myself to them. And then I'm going to give them the responsibility of revealing me to the world, which means they're going to have to I want them to bring the Gentiles back into relationship. And I want them to let the Africans or the Hamites know who it is that they are already serving, right? They're already serving. So from the very beginning, the Gentiles are out of relationship with God. And we know from Japheth that the Gentiles are those that are of the Caucasoid lineage. So we know, and that's just looking Genesis 10 and 11, the table of nations. We go through it in that book. But we see that the Gentiles are out of relationship with God. The Jews' job was to bring them back into relationship with God. It wasn't the Africans. The Africans were not out of relationship with God. Whenever the Jews got in trouble, God said, go down to the Hamites for protection. Go down to the Hamites. They're going to take care of you. Go down. So it was the Gentiles. It was the Gentiles. And the way, I mean, the Apostle Paul is probably the best. He's probably the best speaker on this, because he never says one nice things about the Gentiles. He said that look what he said in Corinthians. He said it's reported among you that a sin that even the Gentiles don't do. You know, a man would have his mother's wife. Even then he said the Gentiles, they sacrificed to devils. They knew what they were doing. So Paul never had anything nice to say about them. He never said anything. So it was the Jews' job to bring them back into a relationship with God. The Jews failed. They failed, and nobody talks about the failure of the Jews. The Jews failed in their responsibility. That's why the Romans asked Paul, then what benefit is there for being a Jew today? Why would you even care about claiming Jewish heritage? And Paul basically told them, you get bragging rights, right? That's all. But the Jews failed, and so then God said, okay, I'm going to send my son because they didn't get the job done.
Wow.
And Jesus came, and because he was of Abrahamic lineage, then God's word it becomes fulfilled because Jesus was a Jew. Now, if no other Jew ever do anything else, then because Jesus was of Jewish lineage, he would be it. He would be Israel for us. If no other Jew ever accepted Christ. So.
Pastor, real quick, listen, guys, some of y'all said some captions were covering up some messages. If you want to be part of the giveaway, this is good stuff, and I got some questions I need to ask the pastor real quick. But if you want to be part of the giveaway, what you need to type into the chat is #BlackandBlessed. That's #BlackandBlessed, and it'll automatically enter you into the giveaway for the t-shirt at the end of the broadcast. So #BlackandBlessed. Real quick, Pastor, I was one thing that I did. I want to ask you this, and I was reading you mentioned the introduction, and it was something in the introduction that kind of stuck out to me. And you said that these teachings identify, highlight, and focus on the assignment and responsibility that God has placed with the indigenous Africans or black people. It is an assignment that is often dismissed, overlooked, or ignored by many that use the Bible as a guide for living. Yet, this assignment is critical to the plan of God for all of the earth. Mm-hmm. I want you to kind of elaborate on what exactly that assignment is.
Okay. And I know I've talked to professors and stuff, and they'll say, well, that's conjecture, right? It's conjecture. And the reason I say conjecture, what that assignment is, we see that when you have to start from the very beginning, right? And that is at the time of Adam, and I won't go from Adam to Noah. At the time of Noah, no one really knew who God was. They all knew that there was a supernatural being that was responsible for things, but they didn't know who he was. As a matter of fact, when God tells Moses to go down there, Moses said, who am I going to say sent me? They don't know you. And God said, tell them that I am that I am. So none of them knew who God was. They knew that there was a supreme being, and they knew that, and the Apostle Paul alludes to it, that say the invisible things of the creation are clearly seen, and so they revealed themselves. So they knew that. They didn't know him in relationship. Right? And so what happens then is we see God telling Israel what he wants them to do. Mm-hmm. He tells them, I want you to be my priest. I want you to go back. We don't see God telling the Africans or the Hamites what he wants them to do. Why? Because we have to understand that the Bible really is the history it's following the Jewish people.
Right.
But we see by assignment and by function what the black people did. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. And this is where I've had professors say that's conjecture. Well, it's just as much conjecture as you saying Gabriel is the messenger angel. There's nowhere in the Bible that says that. But every time you see him, he's delivering a message from God to someone.
Right.
So you say that's his function. So every time when we see the Hamites, when we see the descendants of Ham, whether they are the Ethiopians, whether they are the Egyptians, whether they are the Cyrenians, we see them, every time we see them providing protection and support for the priest.
Yes, sir.
It's almost like, it's as if God said, you can deduct that when God said, Abraham, I'm going to choose your seed to be the priest, and they're going to go out to the world. And Abraham said, yeah, okay, God. Then Abraham got in trouble. What did God say? God said, go down to Africa, Abraham, and they're going to take care of you there until things hold over. And Abraham went down to Africa. So we see what the Africans were doing then, right?
Right.
When God said, Jacob, I need to build you up from a family into a nation. Go down to Africa. And so they go down to Africa. And the African people, once again, in Ethiopia, in Egypt, they nurtured them, they protect them. I know people say, well, they were enslaved. No, they were not slaves. They were actually basically they were treated like as citizens until God said, okay, they've grown enough and they developed enough, and I need them to go out on their own. And the point is, there's a point there that the African people were so, their relationship and their bond with God was so great that they would not mistreat the Israelites. So God had to raise up a Pharaoh to be evil to them, right? But we see what they did there. We saw that the Egyptians, who are the Africans, we saw that they not only did they protect Israel, but they nurtured them as they developed from a family into a nation. Right. So now we see a pattern growing here, right? Whenever Israel gets in trouble and whenever Israel needs help, God sends them to the Africans, right? Okay. Then the king of Assyria comes and says, Sennacherib was his name. I'm a wipe Israel out. I'm powerful. They are nothing, right? And so God said, okay, goes down to Ethiopia and says to Tahaka, bring your army up here and protect the priest. And so the Tahaka comes up there like a blast and takes care of them, and he goes and then goes back. So now we see a pattern. We see that whenever Israel got in trouble, we see that the Africans are doing this, right? Then Solomon, God said, I'm gonna make you wise. I'm gonna do this. Solomon became king at about 960 AD, right? But who knew about Solomon? Anything? 960 AD. At 970, I'm sorry, BC. I'm sorry, it's not AD. Solomon became king at about 960 BC. At about 970 BC, God says, he says to the queen of Sheba, or the queen of the south, who's the queen of Ethiopia, and said, go up there and publicly endorse Solomon.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Solomon's been king for 10 years. Who knows who knows about him? She goes up there to him. She gives him a test. She finds out that he knows that. She gives him an endorsement. And all of a sudden, Solomon became known all over the world. Once again, we see what God has done. So we see a pattern developing here. Is that whenever the Jewish people, whenever they were in trouble, or whenever they needed help, whenever they needed assistance, God said, I got some people down there to do it. Then not only that, let's go over to the New Testament. When Jesus, Herod said, I'm going to kill him. I'm going to take him out, right? And when Jesus, what did God tell Joseph to do? Take the boy into Africa. They'll take care of it. They'll take care of him. They will take care of him. He'll be safe down there. So Jesus takes the boy down to Africa. Even when Jesus is on his way to the cross, what? Cyrene, Libya, Northern Africa. Simon comes up and said, look, they compelled him to carry the cross. They didn't know what they were doing. He was there to offer assistance. He was there to help. That's the function that God has had. And this is why you cannot keep black people subjected. You can't keep us enslaved. You can't keep us in bondage. We'd rather die than to do this, because God has made us protectors. He's made us nurturers. He's made us warriors. And you just can't get it. We're not going to take it.
Yes, sir.
We're not going to take it. We die rather than take it. And see, this is the Bible. This is biblical. And it's supported and it's backed up with history.
Man, I love it. I love it. Man Up Real Talk with Pastor Razer. We're talking about being biblically black and blessed and the impact of blacks in the Bible. You know, I love that story. I love that Solomon story, because, and I think we were talking about this, it talks about the power of the black endorsement.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And you think about, even now, you think about how companies now, how they try to downplay us, but when they really want to sell something, who do they get to sell it?
Yes.
They get athletes, they get musicians, and it's always the black musicians and the black athletes. I mean, listen, you all don't understand the power that you possess. Even within our own circle. You talking about the power of the black endorsement. Just this alone, with what we do, and I'm talking about us with him, with the pastor doing this podcast. Eddie, he does this thing with the Erudition Network, and there's other people on here that do other things. Do you know how powerful of a network that we can become if we would just endorse ourselves?
Exactly.
If we would endorse our brothers, endorse our sisters, and stand behind them. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not saying, and look, here's the thing, and I've always been a proponent of this. I love supporting black businesses, but now I'm not going to support you if you trash. Mm-hmm. I'm just not going to do that. But if you know your brother is doing good work, if you know your sister's doing good work, and if you have a following, if you have a platform, what does it take for you to endorse them? Mm-hmm. What does it take for you to say, hey man, listen, if you ever in this area, so-and-so and such and such got this, that, and the other, why don't y'all go and check them out? Have them on your platform. And I promise you, when we did this, one of the things that we discussed, I said, you know what? I want us to be a catalyst or a platform that other things can branch from, other things can launch from. Because that's what it's all about. It's about networking and bringing each other up and bringing each other out. And the best way that you can do that is with your word. Mm-hmm. And that's I love that story about that. And Solomon had all the stuff that he had for so many years, and it wasn't until he received that endorsement everybody was like, "Oh snap! Yeah, there's Solomon.
There's Solomon." You know, all of a sudden he's
somebody
because the queen, because Makita was somebody.
Right.
She gave him the endorsement, and because she was somebody, and so this is, you know, you can't say that it's just coincidence that blacks have been de-emphasized. Right. This was obviously construed a comprehensive and plot or sinister scheme to actually de-emphasize the black people or blacks involved. But you cannot negate us because of the function that God has given us. And I see the one thing that made me wonder, because with all that we dealt with and with all that we've gone through, it seems as if black people are the most spiritually aware people in the world.
Right.
I mean, I've been an international manager. I dealt with people throughout the world, right? And black people were the most spiritually aware people in the world. But now I understand why. Because our relationship with God predates. Well, you know, it had to predate the relationship that God had with the Jewish people, mm-hmm. because when Abraham got in trouble, God said, go down there to where my people are in Africa, they'll take care of you. But then it makes sense that because from Adam to Noah, there was only one people. It wasn't until Nimrod that we got separated, but from Adam to Noah was only one people, and those people were on the continent of Africa.
Wow. I love this comment right here. Eddie says that they have to understand, and I'm sure he was referring today, he's talking about us as a people. They have to understand their value so that they are not in competition with others. And I support everyone that's positive. Look, he hit that right on the head. I am not, and me and Phil talk about this all the time. I'm not in competition with Eddie. I'm not in competition with the Pastor's podcast. I'm not in competition with our other brother Sean and with Pastor Sam's and whoever else do whatever on Facebook. I'm not trying to compete with them. No. The Lord gave us our format, and the only thing that I'm competing with, and the only person I compete with, is myself.
Yep,
that's it. That's and right. My whole thing is, I want all of us. Look, this pie is big enough for everybody. And it don't have to be just one person. I don't have to be envious of you. We say it all the time, man. All the time. I don't have to be envious of you because you doing your thing. We all operate in our different lanes. And even though we have the same destination, but we all operate in our different lanes, and we can all get there by helping each other.
I don't want none of the pie.
So you want the recipe?
I don't want the pie. Look, the only reason I'm doing this is because I feel that that we have to correct the record. And we've got to get the information.
Absolutely.
If we got the information to our people and our people understood who they are and started implementing, look, I shut the mic down because I got enough stuff to do and enough things to be going on and doing anyway already to keep me going, right?
Yeah, you do.
The whole idea for me doing what I'm doing is really for the same reason that I wrote the book. And the reason I'm starting this now is because now you have to when a window opens, you have to take advantage of the opportunity and exploit it. Now,
absolutely.
What we're seeing now, and I'll say this: I was on the phone talking with Bishop Hudson about 6-8 months ago. It's been a while ago, about not a year, but it was fun. And he said, "Yeah, you wrote a book about like." I said, he said, "Man, that needs to go out now because with the environment that we have in America now, that's the information that needs to go to people." That's when I started saying, okay, now it's time to update it and re-release it, right? Yeah. And get it going again. That's the reason and the environment, when you've got people now that are saying they don't want you to teach Black history in school. Nope. They don't want you to teach the real truth. It lets you know then that the truth has been manipulated.
Exactly.
And so there has to be correction. It wasn't that, look, it was manipulated everywhere, not just in science,
everywhere,
not just in history. It was manipulated in the church.
Yeah.
It was. I was at my sister's house over the holiday of 4th of July, and I was down there, and I'm listening that Sunday morning to the bishop preaching. He's preaching good. I'm saying, man, he's coming on. And then he started saying, and you know us Gentiles, I'm like, wait a minute. See, so we're not Gentiles. So it threw me off right there. And I got up and said, okay, I'm done with it. All the other good stuff he said when he started saying that. But it's time to correct the record in the church. You know, we grew up and I'm older than you guys, right? So I grew up going into a church, right, where the Bible said that the Gentiles were the descendants of Japheth.
Mm-hmm.
And people would tell me, no, we're Cushites. But I go in there and hear them and they say, we're Gentiles. Why? Because somebody told them that some time ago, and that's what they went with. I grew up going into a church where I saw blonde, blue-eyed Jesus. Yep. Even though when I read in Revelation, it said that his hair was white as wool, his eyes was like flames of fire, and his feet was like burnished brass. But I go in the church, that wasn't the image that I saw, right? And so the record was skewed not just in medicine, not just in history, not just in these other areas. It was skewed in the church also. And a lot of people are still holding to this, and this is one reason why I'm trying to get the information out, because we're losing generations now of people who are asking questions and not getting answers. I spoke at Northern Illinois University a couple of years ago, right after I wrote the book, right? And after I spoke, there was a line. We were there probably for as long after I spoke as we were during the speak. Why? Because these young black kids was coming up to me and said, "Can you call my pastor? I wish they would just talk. They would teach this, because this makes it, they're not getting the answers. And when they're not getting the answers, you've got black hate groups that are out there.
Yes, sir.
They are exploiting the ignorance of the church. And because they're not getting the answers from us, they're running to them people and saying, okay, yeah, you are right. Because these people don't have to have a comprehensive and complete theology. They don't have to have a comprehensive and complete story. All they have to do is say, look at how they treated you, and then they can point to history and prove it.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, you've got them.
Yep.
You've got them. So the story has to be corrected. And it has to be corrected at the church. If not, we're going to continue to see people walk out. They're going to leave. They're going to go, because they're not going to come in there and listen to you call them a Gentile, and they read and they see that the Gentiles, the evil of the Gentiles, and the Bible said that the Gentiles are these people and we come from these people. They're not going to do that. They're not going to deal with that, right? And so we need to basically correct the record here, just like the 1619 project and all these other projects. The record needs to be corrected with Native Americans. The record needs to be corrected, but because one thing I found out is that when I talk to Nigerians, when I was on the job, we talked to Nigerians. Their history is vastly different than the history that we learned in school, that they taught us in school. But now, I could not collaborate our history with anyone, but the Nigerians' history could be collaborated with history from other people around the world. That kind of made me believe that somebody misconstrued the facts and actually presented us, they presented us with something that wasn't really history.
Yes, sir.
It was just, and so it has to be corrected. And the church, the church has to be a place where to correct. We got to correct the theology, or we're going to continue to lose generations of young people. You can give them a word, you can have them to praise dance and all that, but a lot of these young people that are intelligent, that are learned, they're smart. They're smart.
Yes, sir.
And they're asking questions, and they don't mind asking questions. And you're not going to get them with a word. You're not going to get them with a praise dance. You're not going to get them, because when that's all over with, they say, look, I still got to deal with this thing, and I still need to know this, and I still got to have this. So we have to correct the record. If the record is correct, I shut my mic off and I go to doing other things. So the pie belongs to you all, right? And I want y'all, look, I'm gonna be sharing y'all broadcast and sharing Eddie's broadcast and build it up and build it up and build it up and build it up, because we've got we need to build our own.
Yes, sir.
Build our own, and that crabs in the barrel syndrome has to go. It's got to die, right? Yes, and now we got to build. We ought to be proud if someone makes it.
That's right.
If someone becomes an influencer with millions of people, we ought to be proud of that. Yeah. Why is Joe Rogan making money on Spotify?
Come on.
And we've got people. There's no way in the world I'm a listen to Joe Rogan and then go watch TV when y'all on. That don't make sense. That don't make sense. It just does not make sense. So we have the opportunity to create within our own community.
That's
Absolutely.
right.
And we need to do that.
Absolutely. You know why I love this, and you really hit on it about just setting the record straight. And people don't understand, like, and I always what really irks me is when people say, y'all harp on history, you harp on the past so much, and it's because, well, first of all, it's because y'all ain't even teaching the correct past.
Exactly.
It's like if you was teaching it right, I wouldn't be so upset. But the fact that you got to understand that when you were taught for so long that you were 3/5 of a person.
Exactly.
Listen to that. You wasn't even considered to be a whole person.
Not at all.
You were 3/5 of a person. And for years, if the world was taught that you were nothing and that you were below them, and then and people are mad because now it's like, no, that's not the truth. That's not only in American history, but then even when you look biblically, how black people just seem to not even exist in the Bible. And that was not true. This is why books like this is important. And the reason why we look in the past, and look, I get it. People be like, well, you can't harp on the past, but no, you don't harp on it, but you can still look to the past, because one thing we know about history tends to dictate how the future is going to be. And if you know what happened in the past, you can not make mistakes you can look at past mistakes and say, okay, I'm not going to do that. But then also you can learn some things and correct them. And that's what this is doing. This is correcting those things that was wrong and righting the things that should have been right a long time ago.
And you have to go back.
You have to
make the correction. And let a couple of good examples. You have to go back to the past, right? If we just buy into the capitalism and the capitalistic system as it is, right? We would say, oh no, we're capitalists. Wait a minute. You have to go back and correct capitalism.
You got to.
If you don't, you gotta remember that when capitalism was incorporated and established as the system of America, black people were the capital.
Come on.
We were bought
Come on.
and sold. We were valued based on how much work we could do and how many babies we could produce. So we were the capital. Now you just can't say, well, I'm going with that. No, you got to go back and correct that.
You got to correct it.
You got to correct it. And as much correction needs to occur in the church. I was listening to an interview with Carlton Pearson, and Carlton Pearson group, he blew up. He was at one time the biggest,
yes sir,
black preacher in the black community. I mean, he pulled him up. Well, Oral Roberts was the one that brought him up, and Carlton Pearson said, look, he would be in these meetings, and this is what he said. He would be in these meetings with these guys from the TBN network and all these other, and said when he come in, they would say, oh, at first they didn't know him. They didn't know who he was. And somebody said, oh, that's Oral's N-word. That's what he said. This is what he said.
Wow.
He said, oh, that's Oral's. That's all. He's gonna bring other ends, around, and he's gonna get us into that. Oh, that's Oral's boy. This is what Carlton Pearson said. I went back and recorded that and saved the file. Because he was talking on WVON on Santina Jackson's show, and he did an interview, and he said, man, I saw it. He said, I saw it all around. He said, the only reason I was accepted was because they said this was Oral's boy. This was Oral's in. And he said, all the time.
Wow.
He said they did not look at black people as people, they looked at black people as creatures. And this is why you come up with the theology of just Jews and Gentiles. These seminaries that have trained a lot of these people, at the time, black people were not considered humans. And they haven't corrected that. And so I get mad when I hear a black preacher saying we Gentiles, because he's talking theology that was taught by people in seminaries that was set up that did not even recognize black people as humans. We were considered creatures. And Carlton Pearson brought that out just as plain. And he brought that out, and he said he would be in it, and he said they would say it in front of him. Oh, that's Oral's N-word. Oh, he's Oral's boy. Oral's going to bring him in. He's going to get us audience into the N-word. He said he saw it was all the time. All the time.
Wow.
And so we have to correct this, and we have to know who we are, and we have to be confident in who we are, and we have to stand on who we are. And when we know what God has invested in us, and that's why I say if we had been taught this in the 400 years that in the black church, because it has been the most consistently attended institution in our community, and if we had been taught that who this Bible, as the Bible was written, we would be walking around with our chest out and pride and saying, look, we are God's chosen people. And God did that. We're not the Jews. No, we're not his priests. But we are chosen by him. And we have been in relationship with him. And we would be walking around proud people. We would be walking around with our heads up, our chest out, and we would know who we are. And we would walk around. Look, you don't see the people royalty in England walking around despondent, like they don't have a future. They know who they are. And if we knew who we are, and I fought and I blamed the church because it has been the most consistently attended institution in the black community for 400 years.
You stepping on some toes now, sir.
Yeah.
Look, but it's the truth. It is the truth.
You know what, Mike? I take it farther than what Pat's saying. Not just the church. If we had this type of information in these schools, man.
But you know what?
For these young kids, especially these young boys.
Right.
If a lot of young boys actually read this book and understand where they truly come from, I truly believe that a book like this could change a lot of these young men's thoughts on how to live. A lot of these young men would want to do better for themselves by reading a book like this, because you know how heavy I am about knowledge of self. If you all really want knowledge of self, please go get this book.
But see, you hit it right on the head, though. They have to want to know better, right? Because it's just like my sons. It's like, look, man, y'all read this book, and if you ain't gonna read it, I'll read it. Y'all gonna sit here and listen to me read. Mm-hmm. They're like, Dad, really? Yes. I'm going to sit here and read it, and y'all going to listen. Just like y'all used to when you was 5 and 6, and y'all used to do story time. Y'all going to listen to me read this. We have to get it to the people.
It's a real impactful book, and I truly believe a book like this could save a lot of these young men on these streets.
But absolutely. I can understand.
That's just my opinion.
I can understand where they coming from, saying, "Oh, this is just another."
Right.
We heard this over
exactly.
We heard this over and over and over. That's why that makes the job much harder.
Yes.
Because the record has to be corrected, but we're at a point now to where a lot of the people are saying, look, you've had all this time to correct the record, and I'm kind of fed up. I'm kind of fed up. And so you have to regain their confidence. You got to do something. I mean, you have to, because they're looking at it's almost like I used to say when my kids were in school and they were talking about how bad the Chicago public schools were, right? And the Chicago public schools would always come on and say, we're going to do this and we're going to do this and we're going to do this to make it better. And I would say, why should I sacrifice my children while you make it better when it should have been better to begin with?
Should have been done from the jump.
Right. These things, and I think we're looking at generations now that are saying, look, okay, I done heard this, and this thing should have happened. Why didn't it happen long before now? Why didn't it happen? And so you have to win them. You have to gain their confidence back. Now you have to actually convince them that this is, this way. And the only way, and the hard part is, in order to convince them that this is right, you've got to also acknowledge that what we did back there was wrong. Right.
Come on. Because you know what?
And that's one thing I respect about you, Pastor. Not trying to cut you off, Mike.
No, it's all right.
What I respect about Pastor, he at least acknowledged that a lot of the teachings that he learned growing up in church, not all of them was right. Now you get a lot of pastors that will go to their grave, denying that. Well, everything that they did was right. It's by God, of God, and they go to their grave. At least Pastor, he's man enough to even to admit that it's some things that we learned in the church that was wrong that I choose to want to change to gain more people. So I can respect that. I really can.
We have to. You have to. You can't just change it and say I'm right now and
I wasn't wrong before.
You can't do that.
And you know what? But that's what parents too. And I was just about to say that, and Eddie voiced it. We as parents, even when we're teaching our children, we have to be humble enough to know, you know what? I didn't teach you correctly.
Yes, sir.
Because I didn't know better.
Right.
So now I know better, and I want to make sure that you know better. You can't go into the thing was like, look, you just do what I say and not as I do. Because they're going to be looking at you like, well, that didn't work for you. So how is that going to work for me? So we have to be humble enough, because that we grow too as we learn.
Yeah.
So you have to be humble enough to say, you know what, man, look, that it was wrong.
Yeah, you have to.
Especially if your whole train of thought has changed from the way you were in the past, you have to humble yourself, because like me, my son was young and I was in the streets. So he saw me doing a lot of stuff in the streets. So as I got older and started changing my life, he's getting older. So I had to convince him that no, that's not the way to go.
Exactly.
But
I know.
he'd come back and say, well, who are you to tell me this? And I done watched you all these years do this, so I can understand that.
And we have to. I mean, you just have to man up, and you gotta face up to it and say, look, a lot of things that we learned and that we came up with and we taught in church. Look, the people in church did the best
that they could. Come on,
with the understanding that they had. So I don't blame them. I don't hold it against them. But think, if everything that they taught us was actually the right way and the doing thing, why are we in the shape that we're in now?
Come on,
everybody was going to church every week.
And not 3-4 times a week.
Everybody was doing that, right? Why we got to this point right now, right? So it has to be comprehensive. If they had to be looking, they had to look ahead and emphasize. One of the saddest things that I can recall is that there was a deacon in Arkansas that was a mentor for me, Deacon Alexander, wise man. But I remember going back to Arkansas, and what we had as a church there, it was almost empty now. And he was telling me, he said, Ray, the people just don't come to church anymore like this. But on his deathbed, when he was going in and out, he made statements. He said, we never had any business telling people what they can wear. We never had any business trying to tell people. We drove them away. They not here. This was on his deathbed. He said, we never had any business. That was never the job, the responsibility of the church. We should have brought them to God and had a relationship. But on his deathbed, he made those statements. But by that time, generations were gone
and lost.
They were gone.
Yeah.
But he said, we never had any business trying to tell them this and trying to tell them that and trying to tell them that. And that's so, some people are just so honorary that they won't acknowledge that we
take it
have
to the grave.
Change this. We have to change this because that wasn't the proper way. That wasn't the right way. And that wasn't the correct way. And this really didn't matter. I'm going to do some teachings this year that's probably going to shock some people.
That's all
but
right.
but I've understood. I'm getting a better understanding from God of what the Bible is and what God requires from us and what God look. Whatever you do, if you bring people to Christ, that's all God wants us to do.
That's it.
If the Lord can't straighten them out, ain't nothing you can say gonna straighten them out.
That's it.
You,
Look,
so
Pastor.
we bringing
Go
them.
ahead.
We bringing them to Christ. I'm sorry.
No, you're all right. You're all right. Time is ticking on. It's so many good things in this book, and there's a lot of look. He talks about notable blacks in the Bible, and I just want you to touch a little bit because you mentioned him earlier. Why? And you talked about Nimrod a little bit. Just a couple of minutes. Why did Nimrod stand out to you as such a notable black in the Bible?
Because all of my life I was taught that Nimrod was evil. The Bible said he was a mighty hunter before the Lord. I said, that's what the Bible said. Oh, well, he hunted men's souls. Where is that at? It's not it's not mentioned, right? But see, this is when you come through the theologian seminaries that teach you that black people that were built at a time and built up at a time when black people wasn't considered humans, right?
Yeah.
If a person is ignorant and dumb, what do they call them? A Nimrod.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you're right.
They call them a Nimrod.
Go sit down, you Nimrod. Yeah.
I forgot of you. Right.
Yeah.
I'm saying, wait a minute. Everything in the Bible says that he was mighty before the Lord. And so I set out to look up. I've never found anything biblically canonized that says Nimrod was evil. All the evil comes from the seminaries who said he hunted men's souls and he was how would I say, he went against God. But that ain't what the Bible said. God recognized him as being a mighty man, a mighty hunter, and he stood before the Lord. And so when I started to look at the reason Nimrod is so critical and so important, because the first time we see a human government in the Bible, it's because Nimrod organized it.
And that's where they were building the tower, correct?
Right. And then it says after this, his kingdom. He established stuff. None of that. And then he came up. He came up with hunting techniques that after the great deluge, and this is not canonized, but this is what the history. After the great deluge, he came up with hunting techniques that taught people how to hunt and survive on the wild animals that they were actually running around, that was running around, right? So he was not only great, but the man was brilliant. He was brilliant. And so he stands out to me because it's such a dichotomy,
right,
of what I've been taught and what the Bible says about him. And we accept what people say about him without, and when you read in the Bible says, man, this Nimrod was mighty before the Lord. He was a mighty hunter. He was great. His kingdoms expanded way out through the land of Shinar. So he had the first human government. He was the first ruler, and they made the man evil.
Wow.
They made him evil, and they made him dumb and ignorant.
I completely forgot that people used to use the term Nimrod as like an insult, like you Nimrod. That's like they used to, like in the old Looney Tunes. They used to say that stuff.
It's when Pastor said something about it. Jesse, like they do use that.
Yeah,
you Nimrod.
Yeah. So Pastor, to sum it up, what with this book and with the podcast and everything that you're going to be doing on Thursday, what are your hopes? Like what do you want most to come out of this project and and what you're doing in the future when it comes to, in regards to teaching people about blacks in the Bible?
I want, first of all, I want 10 million people to get the book, whether they get the paperback, whether they get the ebook, or whether they get the audio book. Right now it's just in the paperback and all, an ebook. The audio book is coming, right? But the whole idea is I want people to know who they are.
Yes, sir.
I know who you are. You really don't know where you're going until you know where you come from.
That's right, Pastor.
That's it.
And you
That's
can
right.
appreciate where you're going if you know where you come from. And I am your typical Christian church boy. My Amber said, "You were saved all your life, so I don't want to talk to you about this." You don't know about that. Right? But here's the reality of my situation is that I know the church because I grew up in the church.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that the church did not tell me who I was per the Bible. And the church basically, they did not teach me into inferiority, or they did not teach me to be inferior, and they did not teach me into be submitted to other people and to be less than other people, but they taught me into it.
Right.
By not teaching me who God made me as, and not teaching me the confidence and that God has in me, and the trust that God displays in me, and telling me about my ancestors and how great they were, and really telling me that from Adam to Noah, they were all Africans.
Right.
And here in the book, Rebecca Can, who's a geneticist, and her team of scientists, they proved that Adam and Eve were Africans.
Mm-hmm.
They proved it with DNA, and that's all I'm going to say. Get the book. It's in the book.
That's
it's
it.
in the book. And then Nina Jablonski, who's an anthropologist, and her team then proved that white people, Caucasian people became lighter, skin color became lighter, and they became hairier as they migrated away from the African region and the middle and went into what we know now as Europe and Russia and all those places. Their bodies adapted to that environment.
Man.
So we need to know, we need to define ourselves per the Bible and not let anybody else define us. And what I want to come out of this project, I want Black children to be proud of who they are, and not say, I have to make myself another race to be somebody, or I have to make myself another ethnicity to be somebody. I want them to be proud of who they are. That's one thing we try to do at the church with Biblically Black and Blessed. It's not about I'm superior to anybody.
Right.
It's not about I'm better than anybody. But it is about that God has a purpose that he has for us. He has a calling for us. And when you see it, it really explains the violence in our communities, right? Because you cannot oppress people that God has given the job to be the nurturers and the protectors. Because those people will fight.
Yep.
Those people will fight. They'll fight because God has put it in them for that. He's put it in there. So what I want out of this project, I want Black children and Black people to know who we are in the Bible and to be proud of who we are in the Bible. And when you walk into your church, don't walk into that church thinking that everybody in the Bible is white.
Come on.
You got to understand that we are the most prominent people on the earth, and we need to understand that the Bible follows the Jews because of their responsibility. So that's why you have a whole lot of things on the Jewish people. It's because God gave them the responsibility to be the priest. He didn't give us that responsibility. He gave us the responsibility of being the protectors of the priest, to be the nurturers of the priest, to do that's what we did. And so I want Black people to understand who we are, what our purpose is, what our function is, and the value, how valuable we are, and to know that we are just as permanent and as much a part of the God's plan for humanity as anybody.
Awesome. I love it. I absolutely love it, man.
Good stuff, Pastor.
Pastor, you know I appreciate you, and I appreciate you coming on and hanging out with us and talking about the book and just talking about just stuff that we need to hear as a people, and helping us understand that we are more than what this world and what this country, this nation, other people have tried to paint us to be. But the only way that you're gonna know how great you are is to know, the greatness that you came from, and this book definitely goes into that. So we appreciate you. Listen, tell the people where they can get the book, because you actually have some other projects, and let them know where you can get your other projects as well.
Okay, the book is on all major booksellers. You can get it on Amazon.com. That's why I would prefer you buy it at Amazon.com, because they rate the books, and if you buy the book, leave a review, please,
and a comment and review. Absolutely.
Comment and review. But you can get it on all the book selling outlets, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, just about everywhere. And this is the third book. I never thought I would be a writer. Really.
The third book. That's crazy.
I never thought I'd be a writer, but we've got not only this book, we've got Winning Spiritual Wars.
Yes.
That was actually a bestseller on Amazon.
Which is also a good one.
During the first month or so, it was bestseller on Amazon. So we got Winning Spiritual Wars, and we got the 4 principles of dominion authority that's recently come out, and it's a booklet in paperback form only. It's not in ebook, or it's not in other paperback form. And we put it, and we're gonna. It looks like we're gonna actually do some more. Look at Brother Phil; he's holding up Dominion Authority and Winning Spiritual Wars. So I never thought I'd be an author. I'm gonna be totally honest with you. I never thought I'd be an author, but I tell you what, God is using a lot of the things that I spent years studying the Bible. I spent years, and I'm gonna be totally honest with you. It wasn't until I started confronting other people when I really realized how accurate historically these books are. I was primarily using a biblical record, but then when I started confronting other people, I started saying how accurate this was historically. Well, the Bible should be accurate historically.
Absolutely.
But I spent years shutting in at our church in Arkansas by myself, just with Bibles and books and taking notes and reading this, trying to figure out and find out and praying and asking. And now God is beginning to actually pull these things together for me, and pull this, and it's just a phenomenal thing. It's a phenomenal thing. I'm humbled by it. I'm humbled. I get messages from people that's saying, man, your book, these things, it just did this for me, and it just did this for me. And it humbles me. I mean, it really humbles me. It humbles me. And I'm trying to make sure that we get as many people, when I got with the publisher, we make sure that we can get the people that's part of our team to do the audio version, the part of our team to do the graphics work, artwork, and all that stuff. We're going to look out for each other.
Man, look, got to build that network. That's how you build a network.
And if we sell millions of us, all of us make it.
All of us.
See, and so that's the deal here. And so what I'm trying to do, but I never wrote the books to sell books. I wrote the books that Winning Spiritual Wars. The Lord gave me that, and you all know He had me to bring the church together on that conference.
2-day conference.
2-day
conference.
We got to do another sip. We got to do another sip and service.
And that came out of that. And I was teaching biblically black and blessed for years.
Yeah. When we were back on Ashland.
Every February.
Yes, sir.
And every year people were saying, you got to put this in a book because we're writing notes and then you lose the notes after time. You're trying to put all this together. You got to put it in the book. You got to put it in the book. And we actually put it in the book. And I'm really humbled because I've heard from people all over America and really from other places in the world that have said of one of these books or other, these books are awesome.
It is, man. They're great. So listen, guys. If you're interested in one of his projects, whether it's the Winning Spiritual Wars or the Keys to Dominion or the Biblically Black and Blessed, you need to go on Amazon. Please go to Amazon. And if you buy the book, leave a review. Mm-hmm. Leave a review and rate it. Look, let me educate y'all real quick. Y'all got to understand how this social media stuff works, right? Sometimes you ain't got to spend a dime and can support just by, and I try to encourage y'all to do this, liking and sharing.
That's right.
Liking and sharing, interacting, commenting. Those things, build algorithms.
Yes, it helps us out
a whole lot. They build algorithms, and that's how things don't become viral because people don't share it.
Right.
It becomes viral because everybody is saying, hey, look at this. Hey, look at this. Even if you don't like podcasts or if you don't like shows like this, you may know somebody that may be interested in them.
Just share it.
5 seconds. Type their name.
Get everybody at the church to share the ManUp podcast every week. Because we all got different people in our networks.
Absolutely.
And we got
everybody.
That's the goal.
That's the goal. And if we do that, man, we really can build this thing. So I just want to thank Pastor Razer for taking the time out and coming out and talking about the book, talking about the impact of blacks in the Bible. And this was a great kickoff for the new season. Oh, I got to do the giveaway. Let me do that real quick.
Yes, you do.
Yeah. So I know y'all been waiting. We finna give away. We finna go ahead and see what we gonna give away here, and it's all automatic. It ain't nothing I'm doing. Look, it's automatic. That's how we doing. So I'm finna do the drawing now. Let's go ahead. Let's see what happens. Oh, look, if it select me, I can't. I gotta eliminate myself. I don't.
You gotta eliminate yourself, Mike.
Yeah, I can't be the winner. Let's see who we got. Hey, Mitzi Fair's our winner.
She's a deserving winner.
Yes, look, let me tell you something about Mitzi. This girl has been my A1 since day one.
Yep.
When I said I was going to start this podcast, she has been. You talk about support every episode. I mean, and. Look, I can't even express how much I appreciate her.
She's always the first one in here.
So how cool is this? Is our first giveaway, and she is our winner. So Mitzi, I'll be giving you a call, and so I can get your information and get that T-shirt out to you, darling. I appreciate you, and I love you. Listen, that's how we doing it on ManUp.
All right,
that's how we gonna do it. So look, I appreciate you guys for coming out. Thank our guests for hanging out with us on tonight. Get the book, people.
Mike, what's tomorrow?
Tomorrow is Wednesday.
What's the date tomorrow, Mike?
Groundhog's Day.
See y'all next Tuesday.
What's tomorrow?
You get 2 fingers to the side.
Oh, it's Mr. Classic's birthday. It's Phil's birthday tomorrow, so if you all just throw a happy birthday in the chat, let him know that y'all wish him a happy birthday. Lord Jesus,
as we always say,
he gonna cry in the car if y'all don't wish him happy birthday.
You get 2 fingers to the side. But
look at that! Look at it! Happy birthday! Oh my goodness! Look at the love! Look at it! Yeah! Oh my goodness!
Hey, sweet Kevin. Listen, I'm gonna get you that book, though, Kevin. I'm gonna get you that book.
Look at that. Kevin. So happy birthday, man! Look, you know I love you. I appreciate you, man. And happy birthday. You know, you're my dude, man. I appreciate you, Pastor.
Let's get it going.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys for coming out and listen. Until we talk again, my friends. This has been the Man Up Real Talk podcast. Y'all get 2 fingers to the side. Make sure you holler at your boys, cause we out.
Peace. All righty.